Quick question. Think about your drive to work this morning, or your commute, or even just your walk to the kitchen to make coffee. Can you actually remember it? Not just that it happened, the details, what you saw, what you thought about, whether the sky was clear or cloudy, whether you passed anyone, whether the radio was on. Most of us cannot. And that's genuinely a little bit wild, because your body was there, your eyes were open. You made it from A to B without walking into a wall. But your mind? Your mind was somewhere else entirely. And here's the kicker. Scientists have measured this. The average person spends nearly half of every single waking hour not actually present in their own life. 47% of the time, you are checked out. So what is actually going on? And more importantly, can you do anything about it? Let's get into it. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. Back in the early 2000s, a neuroscientist named Marcus Raichle was running brain scans and noticed something that didn't make sense. When people were just resting, not doing anything, not focused on a task, their brains weren't going quiet. They were lighting up. Specific regions firing together in a really organized and deliberate way. Like the brain had its own little side project going on that nobody told him about. He ended up calling it the default mode network, which is a very serious science name for what is basically your brain's screensaver. You know how when you leave your laptop alone for a few minutes, it doesn't just go blank? It runs a program, a screensaver, something to keep itself occupied. Your brain does the exact same thing. The moment your focus relaxes, the default mode network fires up and takes over the whole operation. And what does it do when it's running the show? It wanders. It replays that awkward thing you said in a meeting 3 weeks ago. It rehearses the difficult conversation you haven't had yet, but have now imagined about 47 different ways. It daydreams about a holiday you might take. It worries about something that probably won't happen. It argues with someone who isn't even in the room. It is constantly, restlessly telling you a story. And that story is almost never about right now. Now, before you start side-eyeing your own brain, this isn't a design flaw. This network evolved for a reason. It's actually doing useful stuff, planning ahead, processing emotions, helping you understand what other people are thinking, learning from things that went wrong. All genuinely helpful. The problem isn't the network itself. The problem is when it shows up. See, the default mode network doesn't just activate when you're resting. It activates whenever your current task doesn't demand enough attention to keep it quiet. And in modern life, where so much of what we do is repetitive, familiar, and basically running on muscle memory, that is most of the time. The commute doesn't need your full attention. Neither does the routine email. The meeting you've been to 100 times. The lunch you order every Tuesday. Your brain looks at all of that and goes, yeah, Autopilot's got this. And then the default mode network fills in the gap with its absolutely non-stop mental chatter. Think about it. When's the last time you drove somewhere familiar and genuinely couldn't remember the drive? That wasn't an accident. That was your brain literally outsourcing the job so it could go do something else. Which sounds efficient, until you realize what that something else actually is. Harvard psychologists ran a study that tracked thousands of people throughout their daily lives. Every so often, at random times, people got a notification with 2 questions. What are you doing right now? And how happy are you? And what they found was kind of uncomfortable. People were significantly less happy when their minds were wandering than when they were focused on what they were actually doing. And here's the wild part. It didn't matter what they were doing. Even a boring task. Even something completely mundane. Being actually present for it produced more well-being than doing something enjoyable while mentally miles away. Their conclusion? A wandering mind is an unhappy mind. And it doesn't stop there. A drifting mind is also a mind that stops recording your life properly. Think about it. If you weren't really there for something, your brain doesn't store it properly. The memory is thin, vague, like a photo that didn't quite focus. So Autopilot isn't just stealing your happiness in the moment, it's stealing the memories too. You get less of the moment and less to look back on. That's a double whammy right there. Okay, so here's the bit nobody really tells you. And it's way simpler than you'd expect. The goal is not to fight the default mode network. You cannot shut it down. It is too fundamental, too deeply wired. Trying to silence it entirely is like trying to stop breathing. Not gonna happen, not sustainable, not even the point. The goal is awareness. Here's the thing. The moment you notice you've drifted, that moment of, oh wait, I've been somewhere else, that moment is the return. You don't have to do anything extra. The noticing is the waking up. Researchers actually call this the reorienting moment, and they consider it more valuable than the long stretches of sustained attention that follow it. Every single time you catch yourself drifting and come back, you are literally strengthening the brain pathways that support presence. It's like a tiny mental rep at the gym. Low effort, high return. Practically speaking, it can be dead simple. Right now, what can you hear? Like actually hear in this exact moment? What can you physically feel? The weight of where you're sitting, the temperature of the air on your skin. That's it. That's the whole move. One sense, right now. This is not mystical. This is not some deep meditation thing you need an app for. This is your brain getting dragged back into the present moment, back into your actual life. Now, the biggest trigger for autopilot is routine, familiar things. Because familiar things don't require effort, so the brain checks out. Which means small, deliberate disruptions do way more than people expect. Take a different route. Eat a meal without a screen, just you and the food, weirdly present for your sandwich. Have a conversation with your phone face down. Not because any of this is magic, but because anything slightly unfamiliar pulls the brain back online, back into recording mode, back into now. Here's what we want you to take from this. The fact that you drift, that your mind wanders, that you sometimes feel like you're just going through the motions, that doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're less present than other people or missing some special focus gene. It means your brain is doing exactly what it was built to do. The difference between someone who feels present in their life and someone who feels like they're watching it from a distance, it's not willpower. It's not some personality trait you either have or you don't. It's this. They've just learned to notice the drift a little sooner, and then come back, over and over and over again. Presence isn't a destination you arrive at and stay forever. It's a practice, a constant, low-key, ongoing practice. And every single time you catch yourself and come back, that's a moment you actually lived, a moment that gets stored properly, a moment that's actually yours to keep. We don't have to be present for everything. We just have to keep coming back. But before you go, there's something that's been quietly sitting underneath both of these conversations. We've talked about memory. We've talked about presence. But here's the question we haven't asked yet. What if the memories you do keep, the ones you treasure most, the ones that feel the most real, what if those aren't quite what you think they are? What if every single time you remember something, you're not playing it back, you're actually rewriting it? And what does that mean for who you think you are? That one goes deeper than you'd expect, and we're getting into it next time. If this video made you think, drop a like. It genuinely helps more people find it. Subscribe if you want to keep going down this rabbit hole with us. And share it with someone who's been running on autopilot lately. They probably know exactly who they are. That next video is ready right now. Click it. Because what you're about to find out about your own memory, it'll change the way you think about your past, your identity, and everything you believe you know about yourself. We'll see you there.